I know Théo and Eelco have introduced themselves, but I'll allow the other members of the panel to introduce themselves. Yuriy, do you want to start, and then I can pass it down the line?
Yuriy Kostenko. I'm a partner at Flagship Advisory Partners. We are a strategy consulting firm and M&A advisory firm specializing in payments.
Okay. Hello. Good to hear you. My name is Andrew, and I'm representing GetResponse. And here during this panel, I will be the voice of merchants. GetResponse is email marketing and a marketing automation platform. This is our core business, and we are doing in-house solution to payment processing, routing, and stuff around the payments. So thank you.
Magdalena, Kubisa, Blik. I'm happy to join this panel to represent voice of a local payment method from Poland.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, guys. So hopefully we've got lots of questions streaming in. But what I was going to do was to kick off with a question that occurred to me during the presentations. I know each of you approach the non-card payment world from a slightly different perspective, but it'd be really great to hear from you maybe a case study or an example of where you've seen a local payment type, a non-card payment type really work very well, and maybe some detail around that particular use case. I don't know whether Yuriy, you want to start?
I mean, what we see across the globe, and especially in Europe, is the digital wallets have become increasingly popular. And these are digital wallets that are running on bank rails. So products like Swish, Blik is here, Bizum, Ideal. In these products, they are particularly popular with younger population. They start in person-to-person environments, and then they quickly move to consumer-to-business space. Specific example in Swish, they have grown at more than 60% in the last 5 years in consumer-to-business channel. So very interesting. I assume, or I speculate, that trend will continue as they progress into other channels, especially e-commerce environment, and mobile space, self-checkout solutions, etc. So
sounds good. Andrzej?
Generally, in our case, the alternative payment methods are really directly connected with the markets when we want to grow faster. So this is the business decision that we made every time if we want to grow on specific market faster. So we are analyze this market, analyze what kind of possibilities of launching local payment methods we have there. And based on this information, based on this knowledge, we are deciding to using our current PSPs or new PSPs to starting new local payment methods. Crucial for us is something that guys said in the presentations before. It's a recurring payments because our business is software as a service. So for us, one thing is that great conversion. The other thing on the table is recurring payments. So this is something that we analyze, and we are going deep that this method is available in the recurring payments or not. And unfortunately, in most cases, it's not still. But we hope it will be changing in the future.
It sounds good. Magdalena?
Representing alternative payment methods, I will share the use case which I know by heart. So achievements of Blik in Poland. Blik is a payment method that is embedded into the mobile banking. No need for card. You just have Blik in your mobile banking application, and the source of money is your current account. Actually, to pay with Blik, you go to your mobile banking application, generate 6-digit code, and then you enter it on the website or in the POS or ATM. Because we allow customers to do online transactions, offline transactions, and also withdrawals and deposits in ATM. And Blik was founded by 6 Polish banks and launched in 2015, and very quickly became the preferred payment method in e-commerce. I think that in the opening session, Anna asked the question, when will be the turning point for APMs versus cards? And in many cases, which were also mentioned by Yuriy, that point has been already achieved. So today, Blik covers 70% of the e-commerce market, and the number of transactions compared to cards is like 3 times bigger. What were the key success factors? Blik brings to payments simplicity, convenience, speed, and security. So the best possible user experience, and we know that user experience is a king, especially if you want to change user behavior. But also the other part of the success was that we convinced entities that normally compete on the market, so here I mean banks, to cooperate in promoting one single solution for the whole market instead of competing with some partial solutions which cover only the part of the market.
Great, thank you. Théo, your views?
Just want to say it's been impressive to see the growth of Blik over the last years. It was 25% of e-commerce a couple of years back, and seeing it at 70. Last stat I had was 65. It's just insane how fast those markets are changing. So, I mean, congrats. One example I'd like to take is maybe less of the growth of a payment method, but more like how merchants and platforms have been able to kind of deploy them. One recent example that comes to mind is because one of the major website builders built on top of Stripe was too slow launching the payment methods that merchants need, this one developer built a plugin on top of the APIs I showed previously and was able to deploy 25 payment methods that this website builder doesn't already support for thousands of buyers at scale. And that one single person is processing billions in PIV on Stripe as one developer. And so it's kind of the scale that we're giving to developers and to merchants by using kind of the tools that I showed to deploy payment methods to a large set of sellers.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, for us, I think last year has definitely been the year of PIX. So if I can take one sort of success story in the market, not only from customer adoption, because we saw really explosive growth in terms of people moving away from other payment methods and all moving towards PIX in Brazil. But also for us, we did a relatively large acquisition at the beginning of the year, acquiring Paymentes. So we had a lot of Latin American customers all of a sudden. And implementing PIX for them basically shot that payment method up to number 3, just on our sort of breakdown of payment methods. So first it's Visa, MasterCard, and then number 3 is PIX. And the years before it was nowhere near the top 10. So I think in terms of growth, adoption, PIX has seen a massive, massive uptake last year.
Sounds good. So, I mean, we've talked about the good bits. In terms of the pain points that customers experience, or merchants and platforms, I suppose, as well, what are the sort of pain points that you have come across? So maybe, Andrzej, do you want to start the problem side of the coin?
Of what, sorry?
The problem side of the coin.
To be honest, right now in our case we didn't see challenging in it, so it's hard to answer. So this is my first, let's say, answer. Like when I think about it, I don't see any points that something hard. It's on our side right now. So,
okay. Yeah. Yuriy, I don't know whether you've got any views.
Look, I mean, payment methods are proliferating, right? There's more and more of them, despite the fact that you still see stories of failures. And for a global merchant, it is an issue. As they continue to expand, they have to make a decision. What local payment methods you need to cover, and then ultimately the integration becomes a problem. right? Is your existing payment provider going to offer this payment method for you? Will they collect it? Will they offer the right reconciliation? Is the conversion for that payment method will be accurate? Will it be in line with what local payment providers offer? I mean, all of those are sort of key questions, right? I mean, they're not necessarily pain points if you are working with the right vendor, but in many cases, it is a key concern.
Sounds good.
I think if I can add something, because maybe that's why I cannot answer, because in our case, this analysis that Yuriy said before, it's crucial when we're deciding for some PSPs that we start in cooperation. If we have in our head that, okay, these PSPs will be supporting us in, I don't know, EMEA or LATAM market, we are analyzing it from the perspective of supporting the specific alternative payment methods. And it doesn't matter that we won't launch it right now or maybe in the future. So maybe it's the case of the analysis that you need to do at the beginning, and then the problems are not so visible. Yep.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't know whether any of the others have got any views on some of the problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, from the cooperation with merchants, we know that especially for the global ones, it's difficult to implement local payment method into their flow, because each kind of these local payment methods has a little bit different user journey, a little bit different flow. So it's really important to, if you decide to go with this local payment method, to embed it in your platform so that you can get the best conversion rate, really. But yeah, and it takes an extra effort, but still I would encourage merchants to use these local payment methods, as from a study from last year in Poland, we know that it's lack of the preferred payment method is one of the top 3 reasons why users abandon a card. From a WordPay study, it said that 56% of people abandoned a card because of lacking their preferred payment method. So I think that the pain points were pretty well covered in the presentations of Théo and Eelco. So I don't have anything to add. I just fully agree with the chart that Théo showed, that if you add this local payment method and really increase your sales, we have also seen these cases with the global merchants entering, switching on Blik in Poland.
Well,
can I refer to
please,
this?
yeah.
Because, sorry, again, that I want to add something, because our experience as a merchant is a little bit different. We saw on the markets where we launched the local payment methods, something different that Théo says on the slide, because Théo presenting the growth of revenue. That's new customers coming and buying more or more expensive, I don't know, but generally revenue was bigger. And in our case was that customers moving from the, because generally in most of the market we launched the credit cards and selling using credit cards. In specific markets we launched the local payment methods, and we saw in some markets, Poland is a great example, that customers deciding to moving from credit cards to alternative payment methods, and it's not a growth of our revenue, it's changing let's say payment channel. So it depends.
Is your business recurring payments?
Yes, it is.
I see.
Yeah.
That's one pain maybe that I wanted to kind of talk about, is when you are a SaaS business and you're looking at those local payment methods, you have a really tough choice to make.
Yeah.
You kind of have the same if you have a business model like an Amazon, for example, that really relies on I have a card on file and I'm able to buy in one click. When you consider some payment methods like EU payment methods that don't support recurring flows,
Yep.
well, your buyer paid once, but you have to go fetch them and get them to pay the second month. Otherwise, you're losing revenue. With cards, you don't have that problem.
Yep.
So you have a better kind of top of funnel, but then you have a dunning problem. That's one problem we've seen, and that's one thing that we're working with local payment methods to make them also see the value of supporting credentials on file and kind of recurring business models. Because otherwise, to your point, you don't see that value, and you have to decide between not offering the local relevant payment methods or losing recurring value.
Okay, do you want to add anything more?
I think outside of what was already mentioned in the presentations, one thing that we see that causes issues is changing regulation. So in some countries, you think you've found a solution as a customer or web shop, and then all of a sudden regulation changes and you can't do recurring in India anymore. Or many examples that we saw last year. So I think changing regulations is also definitely an issue.
Maybe just picking up on the point on recurring versus ad hoc purchases. Many of the alternative payment types, they don't support both use cases, but sometimes they'll support an online use case, but not an in-store use case. I mean, I know, Magdalena, that Blik supports both, so it'd be good to get your views on how you've transitioned from the online to the in-store world.
So actually, I know many cases where the in-store is quite important. Like I think yesterday, Melissa from Selecta just shared information that if you want to have a vending machine in Switzerland, it has to be Twint enabled. If it's not, then you're not successful. It's easier to offer a new payment method in the internet because internet users are more open for innovation. They are more open for mobile banking. So this is the place where it's easy to catch the customer. But as soon as he knows the payment method and he likes it and he feels safe using this, he wants it to be universal payment methods. So we see our customers really moving from the online world to the offline world, and the universality of the payment flow is something what they really like. And if they can pay with phone, not having wallet in the offline store, it's also a great advantage for them. So I believe that there is a space for these wallet-based or mobile banking-based solutions also in the offline world.
I don't know whether any of the other panel members have got a view on the sort of online-offline view.
In my mind, it's definitely migrating into one. We come from an era where everybody was talking about omni-channel for e-commerce, point of sale. It's now just becoming commerce. I think the dominant Asian payment methods have done a great job in bringing sort of an online experience to the stores, and we see it more and more now with other payment methods as well. And a great example is that my colleague actually forgot her wallet at home, and even in a quite cash-heavy market like Germany, you still can get around with just your phone, which 2 years ago was definitely not an option.
Sounds good.
I can add something, maybe not from business perspective, but from the, let's say, social perspective. It's possible, and Poland is a great example in Blik as well, if the people trust this payment method. And in my opinion, this is crucial. And in this case, Poland is a great example. In other hand, why people don't using so often credit cards, buying something on online channel, because they don't trust. And you can buy via Amazon, and maybe not anyone, but most people in Poland said, I want to choose, I don't know, Blik or PayU or any other payment methods, alternative payment methods, because I trust it and I knew what's going on and who will be, let's say, using my data. Yeah, and I don't put the credit card data to unknown shop. Yes, so from my perspective, moving from online to offline or all things relating to the omni-channel is balance between trust and something that it's really easy to use. Yeah, because Blik it is. I'm using Blik, so.
I mean, from a performance perspective, in card-centric markets, in point-of-sale environment, these alternative payment methods are not successful. And the reality is the user experience is just inferior. You can't beat a half a second transaction with your Apple Pay or your card by tapping the terminal while standing around and trying to find that QR code and scan it. I mean, I've done it for many payment methods. I'm a payments nerd myself, and look, every time I do it, 4 people behind me will roll their eyes and huff and puff until I'm done with that transaction. I mean, that's sort of the reality. But that isn't to say it's not successful everywhere. I mean, there are cash-centric markets. Brazil, where Pix is very popular now. China, right? Alipay, WeChat Pay. India, where you have PayTM. I mean, PayTM already beating cards in point-of-sale environments, already in volumes, right? But those are markets that haven't had cards being embedded as part of the culture, as part of the consumer buying behavior. In those instances, yes, but in European markets, in developed markets, in card-centric markets, no. I mean, it's very difficult for alternative payment methods to win share. They may pick up some share, right? You forget your wallet or you forget your cards, right? You could pull up your phone and ask for that 6-digit code, and then it's quite a process. But I don't think that's it's a payment method that's convenient for consumers. I mean, if you ask, there are many digital wallets that have moved into point-of-sale environment in the Nordic region, for example. And if you ask any of the retailers, they will accept it in their stores, but they're mostly just satisfying the younger, the teenagers, who have no other payment form. But in reality, I mean, I wouldn't expect these alternative payment methods, as user-friendly and mobile-friendly as they are, to be successful in the long run in stores.
So to maybe just flip that one on its head, are we saying that the lack of utility online for cards, the cards experience isn't very good, that you need alternative payment mechanisms? So, it's very hard in store, I agree with you, but actually the opportunity online for Blik, for any of the other payment types, is because actually the card experience can be pretty clunky.
In e-commerce environment, yes, but in in-store channel, no. I mean, there it's either cash or cards. I mean, those are the two obvious default options for a consumer. And yes, they will use Blik, and probably in many cases when they forgot their wallet. But I wouldn't expect, for example, these alternative payment methods to take over the card space, especially when you're competing with Apple Pay, Google Pay, right? I mean, that's even more convenient than cards.
But Apple Pay and Google Pay still at the end, they're cards.
They're card-centric, exactly. Yeah. So that's still cards to me, right? Yeah. I mean, you're storing a card on your phone, but at the end of the day, that's a card transaction.
Yes, absolutely.
But alternative payment methods on bank rails, trying to expand into point-of-sale environment, to in-store environment, no, they haven't gained much traction.
Whether Théo or Eelco, have you got any views on face-to-face?
There are some exceptions to this rule. I would broadly agree that established card behavior, NFCs, the terminals accepted, yes, it's just easier. There's some markets where you can look at Indonesia, for example, where QRIS is the default way for paying for everything, because the terminals are so clunky. They don't support NFC. Apple Pay is not a thing. Google Pay is not a thing. People roll their eyes if you ask them to pay with Apple Pay over there. And so there, in every taxi, every stall, every store, you have the QR that is connected to your bank. You scan it, and that's how you pay. And it's the default way of paying. Now, I don't know what would happen if all of those terminals were NFC enabled and all of those buyers somehow got Apple Pay or Google Pay enabled. But the reality is there are some markets where we've seen some exceptions to this. Right.
Yeah.
And if I may add, because this came also as a kind of surprise to us, because we launched NFC Blik payments a year ago.
Right?
And actually it's growing, but to our surprise, when we started to promote Blik payments in point of sales, the code transactions also grew very strongly in the POS. So it seems that not only the convenience of the tap is important, but also kind of universality of the flow that is already known by the customers.
Right.
We've got about 5 or so minutes, so if there are any questions from the audience, we'd love to hear them. Otherwise, we'll carry on with our own ones. Maybe just talking about maybe the darker side of payments and fraud. We've got one. Brilliant. Okay, that's a very specific one, Eelco, so maybe you can take that one offline. Cannibalization, that's a good question. If you've launched a payment product, and maybe Théo, you can talk to this. You mentioned your A/B testing platform, which I thought was brilliant. This question of, is it just taking customers away from possibly a lower cost payment type, moving on to a higher cost payment type? How do merchants decide what to do?
Yeah, the answer is, unfortunately, it depends. In the vast majority of scenarios, we do see incrementality. Across those 6,000 merchants, for example, it's a great use case. And we do measure that continuously every month with like refreshing data across the entire Stripe user base. So happy to talk about specific business types plus payment method plus buyer country combinations to have more specific answer. I think in general, there's little cannibalization because you're tapping into kind of a new market, or buyers who would, I think I read a stat recently that 45% of buyers may not come back to your site if they don't find the preferred payment method that they would like to use. You've lost that revenue. So lots of incrementality. Cannibalization probably in the 5-10% order of magnitude in the markets I've looked at recently. And obviously, when you look at recurring business models or business that have a card on file model, you're looking at vastly different kind of cannibalization of the recurring revenue, which is an issue.
I don't know whether anybody else has got views on cannibalization. But maybe, Magdalena, on the Blik question, you mentioned that the Polish banks were very supportive in its launch. In the UK, we had PayM. It failed miserably, despite having many of the same characteristics, because banks were worried about cannibalization. They didn't want it to steal their interchange revenue, and they didn't want to lose control of the customer relationship. But was cannibalization a concern for banks in Poland when they supported Blik?
Well, maybe I will refer to this in a little bit different way. Right now, we are discussing going abroad and moving from the Polish market to other markets. And in discussions with banks right now, we see that that this is the concern that they have. But actually, I believe that here we need to have an understanding from the bank side that they can stay someone who is like the card issuer or a place where I check my balance, my account balance, or they can have appetite for more, for being part of the daily payments, yes, used by customers on a daily basis, like becoming kind of super app where I confirm my transactions, yes. So if banks have this eagerness to be like someone more than just like I will give you the card, you put it on the Google Pay or Apple Pay, and that's it. It's like finished relationship with the customer, yes. So with alternative payment methods supported by banks, we can change this banking behavior and change customers into the active mobile banking users.
Andrzej, I don't know, when you look at launching new payment types, do you worry about cannibalization?
Generally, we have two strategies. First strategy is that we're launching in A/B tests new payment methods and observe how our customers and conversion on the top of funnel looks. That customers resign for buying something because they don't see the interesting payment methods or choose this one payment methods. This is one strategy that we launch, for example, with Ideal on Netherlands markets, because their Ideal is really popular, and we care that customers and its credit card are available, and it's possible to have credit card there, and we care that customers resign from credit cards and moving to Ideal, and different strategies on the market where the credit cards are not so supported. The great example is Brazil, where we launched the Boleto payments for our customers, and to be honest with you, we don't care so much about the cannibalization, because we don't have the legal entity in Brazil in this time, and when we decided, and we had an option only for international payments, so it's really hard for customers from Brazil to make international payments because they have only local credit cards, and we saw a huge growth when we launched the Boleto payments. So it wasn't the cannibalization, but we care about it, and definitely recommended to split test the checkout page with and without the alternative payment methods and observe the results, how the top of funnel looks.
And I think we're talking about cannibalization now like it's a bad thing. I think for many instances, it's actually quite a good thing. So we work with a lot of travel businesses who have high value items to sell or luxury. When you can move and cannibalize your car traffic towards a payment method like Ideal or Bank Contact, where you have a price per transaction which is relatively low, cost of processing, security, chargeback risk. There's many good things about cannibalizing cards in some markets.
Definitely. Great. Well, we have some more questions here, but unfortunately we've run out of time. And as I said at the beginning, we're not allowed to run over for logistics reasons. So in the last minute or so, I'll wrap up. Thank you ever so much for all of the excellent answers from the panel, and thank you ever so much for attending today and for the questions. So I'll leave it here. Thanks very much, guys, for your input.